Hey, and welcome to video 4 of week 5. So as you can see on your screen, I have my project open. Basically what I'm going to be doing here is using all the techniques that we've learnt in the previous few videos, and I'm going to be collecting all that and applying it to my own track. So hopefully this way it gives you ideas as to what you can do with your tracks and how you can use reverb, delay, the panning, and also automation. So I'll just have a quick listen and to see where I left this off from last week. Okay, so the first effect that I'm going to start with here is probably going to be the reverb. I'm going to add that to this vocal down the bottom here, these vocal chops. So I'll just grab a reverb and I'll throw it in after my instrument. And let's just solo this. I'm just going to push it up a little bit so I can hear it a bit more. Okay, I kind of like it around there, but I'm not going to keep it at that point for the entire duration of the track. So I'm going to combine a few things that we learnt. I'm going to use the reverb, push up the K time, leave it quite wet, but then I'm going to automate it down so that when the drop happens, it's a lot drier and there's not as much reverb. So I just want it like this for the intro mainly. So you can see that this light isn't on and I don't have any automation controls here, and these are all solid. So I have to turn automation on. So to do that, I can turn the MIDI keyboard off, which I'll introduce you to the shortcut for it now, and that's M on the keyboard. So we can hit M, turn it off, and then hit A on our keyboard, and that will apply automation. So then we can put our keyboard on in case we need to play something. Right, so for this intro, I'm going to leave it at these settings. And then I might leave it for the verse. Actually, for the verse, I'll drop these settings a little bit. So I'm not going to do a smooth curve like this. I kind of just want it to happen on the impact of the verse. So I'm going to put a dot here. Put another little marker here, maybe at 37%, 40%. And I'm also going to do similar for the decay time. So I might bring this down to 2 point, somewhere around there. Let's see how that sounds. Cool. And then I'm going to bring it down once again just before the drop at the end of this build up. Leave it at 20%. Bring the K down as well, 1.5 seconds. That way it's not as spacey. So at the beginning of the track, it sounds like this. For the verse, a little less reverb. And then we have our build up going into the drop. Because we want the drop to be a little bit more impactful. So we don't want this to sound like this, or washed out. Another thing I might add on this vocal is a delay, especially for the start. So I'm going to put it in before the reverb because I want to delay the original sound, and then I want the reverb to be applied to the process delayed version. So just to note again, the order of the audio effects does matter. So whichever's first, that's what's going to happen first. So if the sound's going to play, it's going to go through the delay, it'll be delayed, and then the reverb will be applied to the delayed version. And it happens as you go down the chain. So as you add more and more things, like I was saying, it all gets processed from left to right. So just be aware of that when you're putting audio effects on tracks. I might give it a spacey feeling to start with for the intro. So I've just got it on 1/8 notes here. And then I've turned up the feedback a bit, just leaving that at 50%. Might leave it throughout the verse here. And the build up. And then I'll turn it off here for the drop. So I can either do that by automating the dry wets. So I can just do this, put a dot here and then put it at 0. And that way the delay cuts off right at the drop. Now the other way to do it is so if you turn this on and off, the actual delay, you'll see that we get delayed device on here. You can also get to it by going to delay and then selecting device on at the top. What you can actually do is just turn the whole delay off itself, as if you were disabling it down here. So I can turn it off and just drag this dot back so that, just undo that. Just drag it back so it's on here, and then straight away at the drop it turns off. And that'll give us a similar effect. Just be aware, if you want to bring the delay back, you do have to turn it back on. It's the same with the dry wet as well, I guess. So when you put it at 0%, if you want to start delaying it, you have to automate it somewhere to go back up. And same with the device on. So I might want it to come back at the break here. I'll pick my device on from the drop down, and then at the break here, I want it to turn back on. Give it that spacey feeling again. Same with the reverb, I'll turn it back up a little bit just for that break. I can just come in here, put it up a little bit, the K time. Same with the dry wet. Let's see how that sounds going from the drop into the break. I actually don't like that pattern anymore. I'm just gonna tweak this a little bit. Okay, that sounds a bit better. I like those vocals, how they're sounding. I want them to be quite spaced out for the break especially, and the intro. And then for the drop, they're a little bit drier, so they're a bit more impactful. So we've got delay on there as well, and the reverb. Now I might actually put some reverb on this bit for the break as well. You can hear there's already a little bit of reverb on it. Because if we look at the macro controls down here, we've already got a reverb one. And I can crank this up. You can hear that it's quite spacey now. So instead of adding another reverb, I might just automate this. So if you are using Ableton instruments, a lot of the time they will have little effects and stuff that you can use. And now that we know about automation, you can automate any of these macro controls to your taste. So I'm going to automate this one. And then I'm going to slowly automate it back down over the course of this next little build up here. Just add in the locator. Drop 2. I think I had a drop 2 back here. No, that's fine. Might do a similar thing for this kick just at the start here. I'll put a delay here, just a really subtle one. So I'm turning the dry wet down quite a bit. I just want it to be very subtle, and I've changed it to 16th notes. And I'll put the feedback up a little bit so that we can hear those 16th notes ring out. And I'm going to turn it off as soon as the verse kicks in with the device on. Just going to put a little bit on this as well, reverb. Because this is in the background, you can afford to be a little more heavy-handed with it. Probably helps it actually. Because it is a sample, this kind of helps cover the fact that it's a sample as well. This one here, I'm not going to touch the reverb anymore, but I am just going to add the delay for this first verse. Just find something that works. So I like how those quarter notes are sounding there. Just adds a little bit of depth to that sound. So if I turn it off, very plain. A little bit of delay on there. Just adds a bit more complexity to the track. Okay, see how this sounds in the drop. I'll bring these up a little bit. Let's see how it sounds with the delay in the break. Going to solo and turn it on and off. Yeah, I'll leave it on. Adds a little bit more to there. Sounds quite ethereal through here. Quite spacey. I like it. So keep the drop nice and tight. I should mention that try not to go overboard with delay and reverb. Don't start putting it on every single thing. I know I've used it on a few effects here, but especially for things like the bass, I want to keep that tight, and the drums for most of the time. I only just added it to the beginning here for a little, just to add a bit of something for the intro. But other than that, I want it to be pretty tight. If you start to throw reverb and delay on every single thing, your track's going to be very, I guess, loose sounding. It's not really going to have much structure to it. Everything's going to be a bit wishy-washy, and just, yeah. I know it's fun to use reverb and delay, but try to, I guess, control yourself when you're using it. Like this little flute thing here. I kind of like how that sounds, so I'm not actually going to add reverb to that. This already has a pretty large tail, so it doesn't really need much delay or reverb wise. So one thing I showed you at the start of the video was the auto pan, which we haven't really looked into much else other than the brief introduction I gave you. So you can feel free to use that. We are going to cover it in a little more depth at a later stage, but for now, feel free to just throw it on. I've explained pretty much what it does essentially, so let's just try and use it on a sound here. Let's go with... Let's use it on this background pad sounding synth. So we'll make this bounce between the left and right a bit, just to give it a bit of excitement. So I'm going to add it after the reverb. I want to pan the reverb as well. We'll crank the amount up. Remember, it's not going to do anything until you push this up. So already that's bouncing between left and right. So instead of using hertz as the rate, I'm going to change this to be synchronized with our track. Yeah, I like that there. I do want it to be a little smoother, so I'll leave it the shape down. So hopefully you can hear that. What this is doing now is just nicely swaying from left to right in our ears in the background. So you're not really consciously aware of it, but it's more of a subconscious thing, and that's what you want to add in, as much of those little effects and stuff that aren't so in your face, that add to the track overall. So not every effect has to be in your face. That's basically what I'm trying to get at. These little subtle changes go a long way. I'm going to do the same just for the end here, for the build for the vocal. I'm going to drag in auto pan. Yeah, we'll put it right at the end. Crank this amount up. Oh, don't want to automate that. Let's just solo this so we can hear it. It's actually working quite well there on that setting. Might just time it. So I'm going to automate the rate here. So it's set to half notes now. I'm going to leave it like that for this first bit and then make it quicker for these last four. So you might see now that even though I have automation on, it's all on, I've got the sync rate selected, you can't actually see it here. You can't see any red lines. So how do you add the automation in? What you have to do is just scroll with your mouse up and down. because you can scroll along the automation up and down in the arrangement view as well. So it might just be hidden at the top or the bottom of a clip. So just be aware of that. If you don't see a red line, it's probably because it's hidden somewhere. So I'm going to set one here. I'll set it to half note here. And right at this bit here, I'm going to make it quicker. So I'm going to move down. Yep, so it's half notes for this duration, and as soon as it hits here, it's quarter notes, and it bounces between our left and right ear for each of these hits. And then I'll turn it off as we get to the drop. A quick way to get that is just to hit the device off here, and that'll pop up straight away in your automation, or you can do it manually. So I want it off there, but I want it on before. So I'll add a dot in. And when you are automating device on and off, obviously you can't have a linear line because it's only it's a switch. So it can either be on or off, can't really be halfway, like a dry wet. So when you do create two different points, it's not going to insert a linear line. It'll just be on, and then it'll turn off straight away, wherever you set it to. Okay, that's the effect I was looking for. And I'm going to turn it off before as well. So just here. I don't want it panning around here. Well, let's just see how it sounds. We've already got this one swishing from left to right, so I don't want everything to do that. I'll just turn it off. Yeah, I think as far as reverb and delay goes, I probably wouldn't add too much more on my track. Actually, I'm going to do a little effect here on the claps just for the build-up. Something I like to do. I'm going to put a reverb on it. Just double click it, and it adds it after. I'm going to push the dry wet up. Let's just see how this sounds. Keep the decay time around here. I'm going to automate both of these down as the build-up increases. We'll start with the dry wet. Actually, we'll start with decay time. Something like that. I'm going to hold option. I'm going to make it so it's a little more extreme towards the end of the build-up. I'm going to add that curve in. So that's Alt on PC. Okay, and same with the dry wet. What I can actually do is copy this exact curve onto the dry wet. So you can copy curves between different settings, between different controls. So I'm going to select decay time. What I'm going to do is just highlight this area here, make sure those 2 points are selected. I'm going to hit Command C or Control C on PC to copy. I'm going to select the dry wet knob, and then I'm just going to click at the start here and paste it. And you'll see it just pasted that exact curve in from the decay time onto the dry wet. They're not the same control, so it's only going to take the curve. It won't take into consideration the actual amount itself, so we have to tweak that afterwards. Because this is in seconds, and this is just in percentage, so it doesn't know how to switch between the two very well. So what we can do is it's actually put at 50% here, down to 9. I'm going to put this down to 0, and I'm actually going to leave this up at 100. Let's see how that sounds. I'm just going to loop this section as well. Command L, Control L. Okay, so that's the effect I was looking for. So at the start of the build up, it's quite washed out, and as we get closer, it's building more and more suspense as the sound seems like it gets closer to us. So that all helps with creating suspense and creating that tension for the build up. Right, let's not forget to turn the reverb off, because if I keep this playing, turn loop off, we essentially don't hear anything because it's all completely reverbed. So I'm going to turn it off, turn the device off. We get to the drop. Put a dot here, just turn it off. Same thing before as well. Don't forget to do that if you are wanting to add effects to specific areas in your arrangement. Just make sure to turn the effects on and off before and after, otherwise they'll continue throughout the track. Okay, quite happy with that. So yeah, I've just taken the techniques we've learned in the last few lessons on automation and those audio effects, and I've just applied those to my track. That's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to show you how I would go about adding those effects. So hopefully it sparks some ideas for you guys as well. But apart from that, I'll catch you in the last video for the week, where we'll finish up and see what's happening in the next week as well.